He's asking me, how do we separate it? The first thing that happens is the truck will back into the building. It'll open its back door and push it all out. And you're right, everything falls out onto the floor. The first thing we do is we take a huge loader and we push it onto a conveyor belt. It goes up a conveyor. It goes through a pre-sort area where we have 4 individuals standing there that are looking for the sins of folks. They pull it out, garden hose, fabric, anything along extension cords, anything along those lines that's not supposed to be in there. And we've got a on the lid of the can is a placard that shows you what to put in there. So they pull that out. After it goes through that pre-sort area, it goes across a set of star discs. And these discs are on a shaft, and they stand straight up and they turn very fast. And they got fingers that point up. Now, as the material goes across it, the cardboard, because it's wide and flat, will float literally across the stars. And they turn and they just keep pushing it on down the line. There's space so that as it goes across there, the material that is not wide and flat like cardboard will drop through. Underneath this star screen, or OCC screen we call it, old corrugated container screen, is a conveyor belt that runs the opposite direction. The cardboard goes off the end of it and falls into a bunker. The material that drops through goes down a conveyor and hits another set of stars. And again, they stand straight up, they turn very fast, and what we're after there is for paper. These are closer together and not quite as tall. So we want the paper products, your magazines, your junk mail, sheet mail, your newspaper, to go across those. It floats across the top and falls into a bunker. The material that doesn't go across there drops down underneath it, hits another conveyor. This conveyor takes it and drops it onto what we call a Besner screen. This Besner screen is a huge, it's about as big as 3 pickup truck beds. It sits and it does this all the time, but it does it very fast. On the floor of this Besner screen are holes that are about the size of a Gatorade cap. Okay? So what we're after there is the material that is small. For instance, the broken glass drops through those holes and it's carried to a bunker. The material that floats over the top of the Besner screen hits another conveyor. It goes up and goes to a machine we call a paper magnet. The paper magnet is probably the newest piece of recycling equipment that's been introduced in the marketplace in a long time, and there's only about 3 of them in the South, and we have 1 of them. We're pretty high tech for Little Rock, Arkansas. In fact, I'll put our recycling center up against anybody's anywhere for the size. I don't care. We'll go against them. Okay, we're first class. But it hits the paper magnet. The paper magnet is a belt that is at about a 70-degree angle. This belt has thousands of holes in it. It runs on a sheet of steel that has thousands of holes in it that are larger than the holes in the paper magnet. It is hooked up to 2 huge vacuum cleaners that suck behind this thing. So as the paper that's left on the belt that we didn't get off with our paper screen, it sucks to the belt, and it goes up and over the top of the paper magnet. And as it gets up at the top, it loses the suction because it's got a steel backing behind the belt then. It drops onto a conveyor belt that carries the paper to the bunker. The material that doesn't stick to it, which by now should only be our UBC, our metal cans, our glass bottles that were too big to drop through there, our number 1 plastic, our number 2 plastic, and the other plastics that are in the sort system. After it leaves the paper magnet, it goes through a electromagnet. This electromagnet has a belt that rotates on it. It literally, and you can watch it as the material passes under it, it'll pick up those green bean cans and the corn cans. It picks them up, carries them over to the edge, and drops those into a bunker. Now we've got the metal cans out of it, so we're only left with Mark's UBC, the plastic bottles and jars, and the large glass bottles and jars. After it leaves there, it goes to what we call a optical sorter, or a T-TAC. It goes underneath this optical sorter, and this is a pretty neat, another fancy piece of equipment. It's got the belt that runs under it goes at about 600 feet a minute, and that's flying. It's got a camera in the bottom of this optical sorter that rotates at about 30,000 times a minute, and it takes a picture of that belt and the material on that belt. This optical sorter then feeds that information to a computer. This computer has been programmed to look for plastic drink bottles, water bottles, Coke bottles, that kind of stuff. When it recognizes it, the computer sends a signal to a set of air jets that are at the end of this belt. That computer is smart enough to analyze that water bottle or that container, decide how big it is, how quick it will be at the end of the belt, how much air it needs to take it and blow it over a divider into a box that we have. And it sits there and it's doing this all day long, just like that all day long, because it's blowing that over there. Okay? So it takes and blows those onto a belt that goes and drops it down into a bunker. Everything else just drops right off the end. So now then all we're left with is marked UBC and milk jugs, plastic detergent bottles, that kind of stuff. They go up a belt, and then we've got more optical sorters, but these optical sorters have two hands. And they're standing there, and as it comes past them, the first guy is supposed to get milk jugs. He throws them into a hopper, drops into a container below him or a bunker below him. The next guy is getting detergent bottles and that kind of bottles. He drops it into a bunker below him. The next guy is getting anything that the first two missed, and glass bottles and jars. He puts if the first two guys miss something, he drops them into a can and we rerun it. Then he's getting the glass out of it. By now, we've got everything out of there except for marked UBC and whatever trash was left on the belt, residue. And residue is a fancy word for trash, so we kind of clean up the act a little bit. It goes over the eddy current, and if you're not familiar with an eddy current, I'll let Mark explain that, an eddy current.
Well, he was asking about eddy current, and basically what it does, it's like a whirlwind mechanism that separates materials by their mass or weight. In other words, stainless steel has a certain weight, brass has a certain weight, plastic has a certain weight, and it's all separated in that way. And it goes through this massive, like, tornado, and it's siphoned off into different channels. So, and that's, again, I alluded to that a little bit after, the shred goes into eddy current, and the stainless goes off this way, and the brass goes off that way, and the copper goes this way, if it works correctly. So that's basically what eddy current is. I mean, I'm not in the middle of this machine, but that's the basic premise of what it does, is to separate by mass and weight. That's how it knows.
And then it takes our aluminum, it kicks it off, and you can stand there and watch eddy current, and it just repels it. It's almost like somebody standing there and just doing this, kicking the aluminum. They fall into a bunker below it, and then when our bunkers get full, it's all computerized. It sends a note to or sends a signal to our baler operator. He can run the bale up that material, and then that's the short answer on how it works.
Okay, question.
Good answer.
Next question right here.
It is pretty amazing to watch, and we really do have a state-of-the-art machine. And again, for Little Rock, Arkansas, it's first class.
It is. I've seen it.
When you're dumping it in the trash bank can to get rid of the bags at that point, put them away.
He asked if we would like for you to take it out of the bag when you put it in there. Absolutely. And we have a rule at our place, and it's kind of an ugly rule, but if it's a black bag that comes through and we can't see what's in it, it goes straight to residue because we've been bit too many times with black bags.
Question right here.